You know, Scar's real name wasn't actually Scar. He was born with the name Taka. In Swahili, Taka means dirt or trash. Pretty harsh, right? It makes you wonder what kind of family dynamic was going on in the Pride Lands long before Simba was even a thought. To understand Scar, we have to go back, way back, to the day his father, King Ahadi, first saw his rival and brother Mufasa. The story goes that Ahadi and his queen, Uru, had 2 sons. Mufasa was the firstborn, strong, golden-pelted, and every bit the image of a future king. Then came Taka. He was smaller, darker, and from the very beginning, he seemed to live in his brother's shadow. Ahadi, being the king, had the heavy responsibility of preparing his heir. And in the lion world, the firstborn son is traditionally the one to inherit the throne. So from day one, all of Ahadi's attention, all his training, all his hopes were poured into Mufasa. Mufasa was taught the circle of life, the responsibilities of a king, how to patrol the borders, and how to command respect from the other animals. Taka, on the other hand, was largely left to his own devices. Imagine being a young cub, seeing your brother get all the praise and attention from your father, while you're just ... there. It's a classic recipe for resentment. When Ahadi looked at Mufasa, he saw the future. He saw a strong, capable leader who would uphold the traditions of the Pride Lands. He saw a reflection of himself and the legacy he wanted to leave behind. Mufasa was bright, eager to learn, and naturally charismatic. He soaked up his father's lessons like a sponge. But when Ahadi looked at Taka, what did he see? The stories suggest he saw weakness. He saw a cub who was perhaps too clever for his own good, a bit of a troublemaker, and physically not as impressive as Mufasa. Ahadi wasn't necessarily a bad father, but he was a king first. And a king's duty is to secure the kingdom's future. In his eyes, Mufasa was the secure choice. Taka was a variable, an unknown. This created a huge rift between the 2 brothers. While Mufasa was busy with royal duties, Taka often found himself alone or making friends with the less reputable animals of the Pride Lands. Remember the hyenas? Their alliance with Scar didn't just happen overnight. The seeds of that partnership were likely sown during Taka's lonely kubu. He found acceptance in the shadows, among the outcasts, because that's how he felt himself. Now, let's talk about the incident that gave Taka his infamous name. The most popular version of this story comes from a book series called The Lion King, 6 New Adventures. In one of the books, A Tale of 2 Brothers, we get the full backstory. Taka, feeling bitter and ignored, decides to hatch a plan to make Mufasa look bad in front of their father. He tells Mufasa that a Cape buffalo named Boma is refusing to share a waterhole, which is against the laws of the Pride Lands. Taka goads, saying he's too scared to confront the buffalo. Mufasa, wanting to prove his bravery and uphold the law, goes to talk to Boma. But Taka had a hidden agenda. He had secretly told Boma that Mufasa was going to challenge him for his territory. So when Mufasa arrives, Boma and his herd are already angry and ready for a fight. They charge. Taka's plan was just to humiliate Mufasa, to make him run away and look like a coward. But he completely underestimated the danger. The buffalo stampede was real, and Mufasa was in serious trouble. Seeing his brother about to be trampled, Taka has a moment of regret and panic. He jumps in to help, but in the chaos, one of the buffalo's horns slashes him across his left eye, leaving a deep, permanent wound. Mufasa manages to escape, but Taka is left injured and defeated. When their father, Ahadi, finds out what happened, he is furious. Not just because Taka put Mufasa in danger, but because his jealousy almost got them both killed. According to the story, a defeated and pained Taka asks to be called Scar from that day forward, as a constant reminder of his foolish mistake. Think about the psychology of that. A young lion, so desperate for his father's approval, orchestrates a plan that backfires horribly. He ends up with a physical scar that becomes a symbol of his emotional scars, his jealousy, his feeling of inadequacy, his failure. And instead of getting the attention he craved, he gets a permanent brand of his shame. From that moment on, Taka was gone. Scar was born. This wasn't just a name change. It was a transformation. He embraced the darkness that had been growing inside him. His scar wasn't a reminder to be better. It became his identity. It fueled his hatred for Mufasa, who, in his eyes, was the source of all his problems. When Ahadi looked at Mufasa, he saw the sun, bright and life-giving. When he looked at Scar, he probably saw the shadow that the sun casts. And the more Ahadi favored Mufasa, the longer and darker that shadow grew. He never truly understood the depth of Scar's pain or the danger his resentment posed to the entire kingdom. This backstory makes Scar a much more complex character, doesn't it? He's not just a one-dimensional villain who wants power for power's sake. He's a product of his environment. A neglected son, a jealous brother, a prince who was told in 1,000 subtle ways that he wasn't good enough. His entire life was shaped by that first look of disappointment from his father, and the countless moments of favoritism that followed. It's a tragic story, really. A story of how neglect and jealousy can poison a heart and turn a prince into a monster. Mufasa may have inherited the throne, but Scar inherited a legacy of bitterness that would eventually tear their family and the Pride Lands apart. The circle of life is all about balance, but in their family, the scales were tipped from the very beginning, and the consequences were devastating for everyone. So the next time you watch The Lion King and see Scar skulking in the shadows, remember Taka. Remember the little cub who just wanted his dad to look at him the same way he looked at his brother. It doesn't excuse his actions, of course, but it certainly helps us understand the path that led him to that fateful gorge with Mufasa. It's a powerful reminder that the greatest conflicts often begin not with a roar, but with a whisper of neglect. Thanks for diving into this piece of Lion King lore with me. What do you think? Does this story change how you see Scar? Back to when Mufasa and Scar were just cubs, known then as Mufasa and Taka. Imagine the Pride Lands under the wise rule of their father, King Ahadi. Ahadi was a strong, just king. But like any parent, he had his hopes and his burdens. He had 2 sons, and in a monarchy, that means 1 heir and 1 spare. In the world of lions, strength and presence are everything. Mufasa, from his earliest days, was a sunbeam. He was robust, golden-pelted, and radiated a natural confidence. He played with the other cubs with an easygoing authority, a tiny king in the making. His roars, even as a cub, had a resonance that promised future power. When Ahadi looked at Mufasa, he saw the dawn, the promise of a bright new day for his kingdom. He saw a lion who was born to lead, who carried the legacy of the Pride Lands in his very posture. Then there was Taka. He was smaller, leaner, with a darker, earthy-toned coat. Where Mufasa was a sunbeam, Taka was a shadow. He was just as intelligent, perhaps even more so, with a sharp, calculating mind that saw the world in angles and opportunities. He was quick, agile, and possessed a cunning that Mufasa, in his straightforward nobility, often overlooked. But in the grand display of royal succession, these qualities were seen as secondary. Strength and a commanding presence were the currency of the kingdom, and in that, Mufasa was undeniably richer. One sun-drenched afternoon, Ahadi sat on the promontory of Pride Rock, watching his sons play on the savannah below. The lionesses were nearby, their gentle murmurs a soft counterpoint to the cubs' playful yelps. Mufasa was leading a game, a mock hunt, his golden fur glowing under the African sun. He moved with an innate grace and power, his every pounce and roar echoing the kings of old. The other cubs followed him without question, drawn to his natural charisma like moths to a flame. Ahadi felt a swell of pride. This was his son, his heir. The future of the Pride Lands was secure, right? He saw the circle of life continuing, strong and unbroken. His gaze was full of fatherly love and kingly approval. Then, his eyes shifted. On the edge of the game, slightly apart from the main group, was Taka. He wasn't participating in the same boisterous way. Instead, he was observing, his green eyes narrowed in concentration. He watched Mufasa's every move, not with admiration, but with an intense, analytical focus. He was studying his brother's weaknesses, the slight imbalance after a pounce, the momentary distraction. Suddenly, Zeus's ancestor, a hornbill serving as the king's majordomo, fluttered down beside Ahadi. "A magnificent cub, your majesty," the bird chirped, gesturing with his beak toward Mufasa. "He has your strength." Ahadi nodded a smile, touching his muzzle. "Yes, he will be a great king." But as he said the words, his eyes were still on Taka. The younger cub had now initiated his own game with a couple of the smaller cubs. A game of strategy, not of strength. He was using the terrain, hurting them with clever maneuvers rather than brute force. He was winning, but his victory was quiet, almost invisible to those not paying close attention. It was in that moment that everything crystallized for Ahadi. He looked from the golden, shining Mufasa, the embodiment of the sun, to the dark, calculating Taka, the cleverness of the shadow, and for the first time, he didn't just see two suns. He saw a king, and Atrit. He saw the perfect, sun-blessed heir, and the brilliant, overlooked younger brother. A cold dread, something he had never felt before, crept into his heart. It wasn't a fear of an external enemy, but of a seed of conflict planted within his own family, within his own legacy. He saw Mufasa's future, bright and clear, but when he looked at Taka, he saw an unnerving intelligence that, without a throne to command, could curdle into something dangerous. He saw a jealousy that could fester. He saw the shadow that is cast by even the brightest light. Ahadi understood then that the greatest challenge to Mufasa's reign would uncome from hyenas or rival prides. It would come from his own brother. This realization wasn't born of malice from Taka. Not yet. At this days. It was just the natural consequence of their birthright. Taka was born second, born in the shadow of the chosen one. Ahadi saw the ambition in Taka's eyes, an ambition that had no legitimate outlet. He saw the keen mind that, if not guided and valued, could be twisted by resentment. The king looked at his two sons, the golden and the dark, playing under the same sun, and felt the first tremor of the earthquake that would one day shatter his family. The pride in his heart for Mufasa was now tinged with a deep, unsettling worry for Taka, and for the delicate balance of the kingdom. That afternoon, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the savannah, Ahadi didn't just see his sons. He saw a king and his rival. He saw the sun and the shadow. He saw the beginning of the story we all know. He saw the future. And for the first time, it was afraid. This dynamic, set in motion long before the events of The Lion King, shows us that the tragedy was not a single event, but a slow-burning fire of jealousy and perceived injustice. Ahadi's moment of clarity on Pride Rock wasn't just a father seeing his sons. It was a king foreseeing the fracture of his own pride. He saw the raw materials for both a great king and a great villain, and he knew, with a terrible certainty, that they were brothers. It's a powerful reminder that the most compelling stories often begin not with a roar, but with a quiet, heartbreaking realization. What could he have done differently? How do you manage a brilliant, ambitious child who is destined to live in their sibling's shadow? The story of Mufasa and Scar is a tragedy, but its roots go deeper than we ever imagined, back to a father's love and a father's fear. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed diving deep into the untold stories of our favorite characters, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what you think about King Ahadi's impossible situation. See you next time.